So, Coach, I've been running through your pictures, looking for, historic reference as we do with our videos. And I came across this gem. What's going on in here? I mean, seriously.
Well, that was the 80s.
What was it?
We'll get into that in a minute.
All right, guys. The 80s up next. Hey, today's video is brought to us by Vedder Holsters. Vedder Holsters are made in the USA, and they pretty much manufacture for every major make and model. You can mix and match them to different light configurations as well. If you're running a red dot, they got you covered. Go ahead and check them out in the link below. Let's get to the video. All right, guys, so we're back. Got Coach here, and we're going to be talking about the 80s. Now, our experience of the 80s are definitely going to differ, but, we were both there. But today, we're really here to talk about you, so...
Yeah, well, let's just back up just a little farther so you understand. You guys, you younger folks out there, you've always had a phone in your pocket. There's always been 24-hour TV. There's all these little things that you've had we didn't have. Okay, and even into the 90s. I mean, this is what you call, what would you call this if it was electronic?
Your photo book, your photo page, your photos.
Yeah,
your photos.
No,
it's just photos.
Yeah, this is how you had to store these things. Not everybody had a camera in their pocket, and if you did have a camera, you took that picture, and then you had to wait 3 days to a week to see if you got it or not. Now it's like, oh, take the picture. Oh, I don't like that one. Take another one. Mm-hmm. That's not how it worked back then. So just kind of setting the stage for where we were. I didn't think low tech, right? Anyhow, where do we want to start this?
So
I was born.
Yep. Dang on what?
Yeah. Well, I was born in Los Angeles in 1966, and I grew up and did all my elementary school in Pismo Beach. Little small town next to San Luis Obispo in California on the coast. Junior high and high school up in East San Jose until I joined the Navy to get the hell out of East San Jose. If you're from East San Jose in the 80s, you know what I'm talking about. But I was into taking pictures, figured, okay, both my folks are high school teachers, and they're like, well, we want you to go to college, but we don't have any money to send you. So, me and my 5 other brothers. So I think, well, I'll look around. The Navy had this cool, join the Navy and, get some experience. We'll train you and get money for college. I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm 17 years old and I go to sign up. And my mom wouldn't sign up. She had to co-sign, let me off the deal. And she wouldn't sign for active duty orders. So I had to go reserve it first. That comes in later.
Yes, you graduated in...
I graduated on the 14th of June, 1984. Right on. And I was on the airplane to boot camp that night.
Outstanding.
Rolled out to Orlando.
So your first actual day was the 15th?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Showed up.
1 year old on the day. I mean, you can't make this stuff up,
Yeah, so we're both on the planet at the same time, It's good to know.
You're on your way to Orlando.
Yeah.
They didn't send you to San Diego from San Jose. You got to go all the way to Orlando.
Yeah. I think it's because my A school was in Pensacola.
Because you're a photographer's mate.
Photographer's mate.
All right. So you did photography in high school, and now you're doing it again in the Navy.
Yeah. So back then they had 3 different Navy boot camps. Now they only have the one in Great Lakes.
Right.
Before it was San Diego and Orlando. They called Club Med, and it was the only place that the females got trained as well. So we had females,
nice,
in boot camp with us.
There you go. Cameras, girls, Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right.
Good
so the summer of '84. You're going through boot camp, then you get to your A school, which is right there. That was in Pensacola, or that was in Orlando as well?
Well, Orlando was boot camp, and then they shipped us off to to Pensacola. And I spent the next 6 months there becoming a Navy photographer.
6 months photography.
6 months is, yeah. Well, there was a lot more to learn back then because, like you said, the technology was less.
Yeah.
So we were this is black and white, man. That's what we're shooting in black and white. That was the your stock way of doing things was just black and white. And if you got fancy, then you get color.
Right.
But yeah, at the time,
you had to be qualified.
Yeah.
You had to work up to it.
Yeah, there was a module. There was a module.
Whoa.
It was like, hey, now we're doing black and we started off with a camera that was state of the art in 1922. You know, a little 4x5. Yeah. It was, we won't go into that, but
okay.
Yeah, that was boot camp, and during that time, that's when I really solidified that I did not want to do regular Navy stuff.
Right.
And so I was out running, and we didn't have any way to. There was nobody to tell you what to do to train for buds.
Right.
So you figure, oh well, you have to run, you have to swim.
So there just happened to be a SEAL in Pensacola that you came across.
No, actually, it was one of the. I'm not sure whether he was a SEAL or not, but he saw that I was kind of pissed off with the whole thing and said, "Yeah, try this." And that's kind of sold me on the program. And the more I looked into it, there was a couple other guys that knew more about it. Of course, they're recruits like me, and but they had known somebody who was a frogman and was like, "Oh yeah," and they had, they were on their way, and just looked into it that see, being a SEAL, you had to have another job in the Navy. Now you can just be a SEAL. Back then it was called SEAL Source Ratings, and that was the just so happened that photographer's mate was a SEAL Source Rating for some reason. I guess for the intel, sneaky peeky take pictures, whatever, come back.
Yeah, part of reconnaissance is photography.
Yeah,
and intel gathering, all that.
It was a whole different story back then. But anyway, so yeah, that was A school. I finished that. Came back to San Jose, was a drilling reservist for a year, the whole time just trying to get active duty orders and not screw up and train. And again, swam some, ran some.
And you actually had to drive from San Jose all the way down to San Diego just to take the screener?
Yeah, that's really? The only place they administered the screening test was at boot camp, and the closest boot camp was San Diego. So I drove down there and just ran around the track and swam in the pool with all the other guys screening for
buds.
For buds, yeah.
Outstanding.
Yeah. Finished that up, turned around, drove back the next morning.
Awesome. All right, so it takes you. Your path to buds is a little unconventional. You're stuck in the reserves, but you finally get orders. When did you show up?
I actually showed up 3 months early in April. Yeah. And they just sent me over to Explosive Ordnance Disposal Mobile Unit 3 for 3 months. They said, well, we can't do anything with you here. So that we were just slave labor over there. So when as guys came to class up, they would just store them there. So I spent 3 months, doing slave labor for EOD guys, feeding fish and getting assaulted by dolphins and, things like that.
Yeah, good stuff, you know, Navy stuff.
The good stuff, yeah. All the stuff they didn't want to do.
Yeah.
And then July, we started buds, and you do your pre-training, which is just I don't know what the fuck.
Basic conditioning and just kind of showing you the ropes of how it all works.
Yeah, they're going to teach you how to do the O course and run you through your basic swim stuff. Give you another physical screening test just to make sure that they can cut as many people as they want.
How long was your guys' pre-training?
I think it was 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, and they just kind of then you class up, have your haircut and party, and everybody shaves their head down to the wood, and that's like the symbol of like, okay, we're starting training.
So you guys had the haircut party. You ran the mohawk.
Oh yeah, we had a mohawk. That was my first mohawk.
Yeah, I had a mohawk for the weekend.
10 minutes, yeah.
We did our haircut party, I think, a Thursday or Friday. I think it might have been a 3-day weekend. And I got to rock the mohawk. I stayed up in Poway at a buddy's house for the weekend. And you got to rock the mohawk when you can,
Everybody's got to have a hawk at least, least for a little while, just to be a rebel for 10 minutes.
So you guys have your class up party in July, so probably 4th of July weekend's over with, and you start up one day, or?
Yeah, we start off 1-1 and just went from there. I mean, back then, I think it's similar now. The Hell Week starts, I think Hell Week was our 5th week. So we had 4 weeks of just conditioning runs and swims and, PTs, grinder PT, and all that. The old O course is what I've got pictures of here. And that was, they had the weird ass obstacles, the belly buster, where you put your hands on your head, close your eyes, and ran at a telephone pole that was elevated, and an instructor there would move it and slam it into you. You would flip over, land on your back, get up and run to the next obstacle.
Yeah, I remember seeing videos of that, but by the time I got there, it was long gone.
Yeah. It was like, what exactly are we training for? What muscle group is that?
Yeah. So dumb.
So the new O course that they have now, I call it the new O course, is a lot more beneficial, right? There's more training involved than just somebody's, sick fever dream joke, like, what can we make these guys do that'll really suck?
Yeah. And so back then, second phase was Lamb Warfare.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did your
first
weapons,
phase was
your
just
demo.
Kicking the nuts, and then you got Hell Week, which, we classed up with 126 guys. We started Hell Week with about 75, and we ended with about 30.
So you guys still had the belly buster. They did take that out.
We got rid of the belly buster. There was a bunch of stuff, all the stuff that just didn't make any sense when they redesigned it. I think around 1989, 90 is when they tore out the old one and put in the new one. But yeah, it's, it was fun. Yeah. I mean, the first time you get up on top of that 60-foot cargo net and kick your leg over, I remember pausing for a second thinking, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah. It's like, this shit's real. If I fall off this, I could die.
Yeah. And guys have fallen off of it.
Yeah. And I think the only person that died was on the East Coast on their version.
So second phase is Lamb Warfare. You guys go out to the island. When did do you know when that started? Like, it was just kind of a glimpse of time where there were only a few classes that had that reverse order.
It had been that way for a while at the time. I mean, I think what they'd done is they switched it around because, second phase was less expensive. You didn't have to maintain that many, you're going to cut more people, because we cut people at every phase. You lost guys, through attrition. And I think diving was more expensive then, so you had to maintain a certain number of rigs, and if you have less guys, less rigs. It could have been that simple. I don't know. I'm speculating, talking out my ass. But, at the time, you went to second phase. You learned a little bit of tactics and a little bit of weapons, and you got a good swift kick in the nuts. We didn't, we didn't have to qualify with the weapon at the time. You just had to do it. In fact, I just looked at my old, my bud's record, found it, looked through there, and they had a point system. So it wasn't like you had to pass this and this and this. It's like at the end of, if you didn't quit and you didn't get, performance rolled, they would look at your points. And if you got to a certain point, you went to the next level.
Right on.
So, yeah.
And so third phase for you guys was M16A1s and full-size M60s?
Yep.
203s, 79s?
No, we didn't do any grenade launcher stuff at all.
Okay.
We had pop flares that we used for signaling and stuff like that, but that stuff was still being used by the teams. And spare that for buds guys.
Did you guys do any pistol marksmanship?
Yeah, we did. We shot rifle and pistol. We did the Navy quals. So if you did qualify, you got your cool ribbon. But if you didn't, it didn't matter. It wasn't a strike against you. Now you need to qualify, otherwise you don't continue training. Yeah. So, you out of San Clemente, we did a full week of underwater demolition training, cast and recovery, swimming and obstacle loading, all that stuff, all that World War II and Korea stuff that, you knew you never were going to do it again. But it's one of those that, it was just a way to get people to quit, man. It was hard.
It's just part of BUD/S,
being cold,
it's still,
being
I think
miserable.
they still do it, It's still obstacle loading. My class did it.
But when you do it for a day, we did it for a full week.
Wow.
And you think, okay, what would that entail? Well, you do your dry practice, you do your wet practice, and then you put the full mission profile together where one night you swim in and do a beach recon. Old lead line and slate, and then swim back out and get picked up, and then make a chart the next day. Really into the weeds of actually doing that op, which even then we knew we were never going to do it again. But that's what you had. You did your beach recon, beach survey. You found your obstacles, and you loaded the. You went and did the full mission the next night, and it took us 2 days to do it because the weather came up and beat the living shit out of us, and we couldn't get couldn't get it all together. So we had to de-rig the whole field, whatever had been rigged, and pull it off, and then do it again the next night. Which the weather was, the waves were a little more cooperative because they get pretty big out there.
Yeah, they do.
Anyway.
It's no joke. So you guys finish up at the island and then head back for your third phase, which would have been diving. And that was all just LAR 5?
Yeah, we
1980's LAR 5?
Yeah, open circuit, and, did your over-the-beach stuff and all that to qualify up for the LAR 5, the closed circuit. But, in order to graduate to that, you had to go through what we call pool comp. They have a different name for it now, LC8 or something.
Yeah, whatever.
Pool comp is what we call it.
Yeah.
And you couldn't believe that you were going to be a SEAL until you made it past pool comp. Once you made it past pool comp, you're like, okay, I think I might be able to make this. Because if they didn't like you, they could fail you. It was very subjective. So, you just get beat up underwater for a little bit. As long as you do everything, properly, you'd be okay. But they can screw you up so bad that, you'd end up passing out down there, and then you fail and you go again. And, so once you made it past there, then you could actually, in my head, I could go, oh yeah, I might be able to actually be a SEAL one day.
Yeah, I think that's a similar way of looking at it even today, maybe. I don't know about kids today, but definitely in my era.
Yeah. Well, that happens in second phase now. Third phase, when you come off the island, that's when you can think, okay, yeah, I got this. 'Cause first phase was Hell Week. Second phase was the weapons practical. That was the one that they could make you fail if they wanted to. If they didn't like you, you weren't going to pass. And then pool comp was that was your last big, hurdle where that was subjective, where they could just cut you for pretty much no good reason.
Cool. Alrighty, so graduate from BUD/S. When was that exactly?
We graduated, I think, in February of 1987, and then went straight to jump school, Army jump school in Fort Benning, Georgia.
Yes, know it well.
Yep.
3 weeks of splendor.
Yeah. So it's about 3 days of training packed into 3 weeks of being there. Yeah, the Army does everything at this certain level. And I look at it as like Navy appreciation school, because you got there, it was like, oh my God, people live like this. So,
yeah. Well, they're a great bunch of guys.
Some guys love it, man. At the time, I was like, oh no, this is.
Yeah, so you guys, the whole class goes to Benning down in Georgia, and then from there, West Coast guys go back to fly back to San Diego.
Kept on going, and we went back to San Diego.
Yeah.
Showed up at SEAL Team 5 and walked across the quarterdeck. Seaman, screaming seaman, airman Cochiolo.
Yeah.
You walk through the gate, they say, okay, go check in with the Master at Arms, which at the time was half-ass McCarthy, Vietnam guy who got half his ass blown off.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
He really did.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. So, half-ass, you're awesome. Yeah, so reported in there. All the new guys kind of mustered there, and the first thing they did, they shoved this into Foxtrot platoon. So we were about, I think, a 14-man platoon at the time, and half of us were new guys from either Class 140 and Class 141.
Wow.
Yep.
Cool.
So that would have been in March-ish time frame. And we started our workup. Again, like I said, the platoon trained you. And as we were going through our workup, getting the various things, we went out to an island a couple of times, did some land warfare. And then all around August, some stuff had happened overseas. The Iranians were shooting silkworm missiles at the ships that were going through the strait there. And so the guys who were forward deployed to Unit 1, the Philippines, they deployed to the Gulf to see what they could do about it, get in there.
Was there a Unit 3 by then?
No.
Yeah.
No, it was Unit 1. Honestly, I didn't really care back then. I wasn't paying attention. I know NSW U1 was there in Subic Bay, Philippines.
Right.
And that's where the guys left from.
Hell of a place.
Yeah. And then the unit there said, hey, we're down a platoon. We need another platoon. Who's ready? And nobody was ready on the West Coast. And somebody at SEAL Team 5 said, hey, let's send Foxtrot platoon. They're closest. So I deployed to the Philippines with no trident and half trained. And we're going to finish our workup there. And we did. I got my trident while I was overseas. And there's me.
Yeah.
Newly minted.
Yep. The real training had begun.
And during that time frame, we got the nod. Well, let's see. We had so the way it works, deployment is you go over to the unit, and then from there you deploy to, say, Korea and Australia, anywhere in the Pacific. Yeah, that area. Okay. We got to go to this little island called Palau and do some beach surveys because they were looking for beaches that they could practice assaulting or whatever. So we go there, and long story short, we get a little altercation with the natives. And it got blown way out of proportion. And, so we were there for 3 weeks, did our job, came back. Now, there was some complaints from the Palauans about the Navy, and there was an admiral that really liked that place. And anyway, so he wanted to find out what actually happened. Well, right about the time he starts asking questions, or sent people out to ask questions at the unit, we got a real world mission. So we pack everything up. Our platoon launches. Okay, so we're off doing this, and that's when the hook really got into me, because it was like, this is real world stuff. Remember, this is 1987. There's no wars. This is your best chance to do something cool. Yeah, so we get this real world mission, and we roll out there, and can't really talk about it, but nobody knew about it except the guys in the White House, which was Ronald Reagan at the time, and the Joint Chiefs. They didn't brief admirals. They didn't brief anybody. They just took us and we went. So this admiral is getting more and more pissed off that no one's giving him good answers. So when we came back, just the whole world of shit.
Yeah, it all came down.
Yeah, we ended up going to Captain's Mast. Well, the whole platoon went to XOI. My OIC got fired. It was, it was ugly. They threatened to take our tridents away, and going back to Vietnam, the way things worked was you'd go to Vietnam, you do good things, you'd get promoted, get awards and all that. And then when you came home, you'd screw up. You'd go get drunk, wrap your car around tree, DUIs, bar fights, whatever, and you got in trouble. You'd lose some stripes, and then you'd volunteer and go back overseas back to Vietnam and do good stuff and, gain it all back again. Well, that's kind of when we came back and immediately jumped in another platoon. And, the guys that were, that didn't get, the OIC, he was done. AOIC, the assistant officer in charge, he took over and he eventually became a captain. So I think they both did, actually. But I just jumped back in another platoon and got back to work.
There you go. Right on.
I had to do something.
So that was the first cruise?
That was the first cruise, and getting that real world mission really put the hook in, and I wasn't ever going to leave at that point. I liked the lifestyle. Every day was different, fun stuff. Yeah, like this picture that you asked me about.
Yeah.
So this was, we did a opposing force. We were attacking the ships, so we were going to be a little terrorist thing. So they didn't tell us anything. Just say, hey, yeah, grab your guns and dress like civilians, and that's what civilians dress like.
Yeah, well, that's what civilians dress like. Yeah, like maybe you're going to try going to your first rap concert. You're not 100% sure what to expect. Like, I don't know. They look pretty mean on TV. Like,
yeah. Torn up clothes and MP5s with giant flashlights, plumbers clamped to the sides of them. That
so
kind of sums it up. That's the 80s right there, man. We were just figuring things out.
Jeff Payne.
Yeah,
you guys look like a band. Like you're in a band.
Yeah,
posing with the security's guns.
That's
outstanding. All right, so now you're back from your first deployment. You got your Trident. Things are looking great. Then what happens?
Let's see. So beginning of 89, we deploy again. This time I was amphibious ready group. So on ARG, so we're attached to a ship. So we get on the ship and we go and we cruise around and, not a lot happened on that one. Ship life sucks. You guys in the Navy who love that stuff, good for you. And,
you're fine Americans. Yeah. We appreciate you.
And honestly, I could see if you were regular Navy, you had a job on the ship.
Yeah, you had something
we
to
had
do.
no job.
Exactly.
We were cargo. So we just kind of hung out there on the ship, sleep, eat, and lay around. That's what SEAL stands for at that point.
Yeah.
And that's when I learned to drink coffee, because otherwise there was liquid motivation. You just drank a bunch of coffee and then you got all fired up and go work out or whatever.
Nice.
And then got back from that cruise.
Well, where'd you guys stop? Like where did the cruise go?
We went, where'd we hit? Korea a couple of times, the Philippines a couple of times, Australia, and Japan. So that was with the.
All right, you made the rounds.
Yeah, those are the major stops. Hawaii, I think we did a stop in Hawaii as well. So we did a bunch of that. We just regular Navy. It was like training everywhere we went. It was a new thing to train on, a new discipline that we need to brush up on. So I got back from that cruise, and I was actually that was the first half of 1989. I was back in the States for 10 days, and there was a platoon that was on their way out the door. Their first Louis guy, the guy in charge of boats and motors, got in a little altercation out in town and was in jail. So he couldn't go. So I walk in one morning.
Stupid jail.
And the XO of the team came to me and said, "Hey, Coach, I got a good deal for you." I said, "Yeah, what's that, sir?" And he said, "Well, can you be ready in 4 hours to be gone for 6 months?" And I thought for about 2 seconds, and let me move my stuff from the incoming pallet to the outgoing pallet and go tell my roommate that I ain't going to be around for a while. And back out the door and back overseas. We roll out. I'm with a new bunch of guys. Some guys I knew, some guys I didn't know so well. But we started doing our regular stuff. I think we did some training with the Malaysians. spent a lot of time around the Philippines, and about halfway through the cruise, they decided to have a coup. So Corazon Aquino was trapped in her palace, and we had a couple of little issues with the locals. The Philippines was a little more of a Wild West show back then. I mean, they had some issues with the NPA, the New People's Army, the communists. And way down south, they had the Muslims that were always pissed off at somebody. But yeah, so the way that they turned power over back then was, with a coup. So when that went down, we had to separate the Filipinos that we were working with. So they had to figure out who was loyal to who. Yeah, and at one point, guys took. They were working with the Filipino Marines. They had when they heard this was going down, the Filipino Marines hadn't figured out yet what was going on. And our guys said, hey, we're going to have a weapons inspection. So they took all their weapons and said, okay, you guys get out of here now. So that happened on that end. On our end, they figured that we were going to be available to rescue the president of the Philippines if she requested it. So that was our workup. Can't really even now go into all the details, but we were ready. We did some quick training and mission planning, and we're standing by. But she never requested the rescue.
There's actually a pretty in-depth segment on operator syndrome, which is a YouTube channel you can check out, or a guy in Coach's sister platoon, Steve Watkins, I believe. He goes into detail about it. It's an interesting story, about just something that popped up in that time and place.
Yep.
But so you finished off that deployment, came back probably by the end of the year.
Yep, jumped right into another platoon.
Now, were you deployed? This happened around the time of Panama, right? So it's kind of the end of '89.
Yeah, I was in the Philippines when Panama went down.
Okay.
And we heard about it, and it was like, oh man, that sucks. But what you gonna do?
Right on.
Yep. But so we ended up not doing anything for the Filipinos at that point. I came back, jumped right into another platoon, and then a couple months in, during a night combat equipment training jump, I broke my leg.
Yeah.
And that put me.
That's how we got the 90s going.
Yeah.
All right.
That set me back a little bit, but my platoon deployed to the first Gulf War, and I was still hobbling around trying to recover from that one. But
okay, well, that'll be a story for the 90s.
Yeah, but that's pretty much the 80s and all the, not really getting into the shenanigans. But, back then, you could get in a bar fight. You could get in trouble. And it wasn't a career-ending thing.
Yeah.
And now, boy, somebody said they had an ARI, and I'm like, what the hell is that?
I remember that when it first started coming around. Like, what?
Alcohol-related incident. I'm like,
so dumb.
What is an alcohol-related incident? And he's like, well, if you've had a drink and you get in a fight, that's an ARI. I'm like, what? Hell, that's Saturday night.
Yeah, so every weekend. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's back then, rock and roll. Beer was still good for you.
Yeah.
80s.
I tried to drink my weight in it every week.
My experience during this decade was a bit different, but it's Ninja Turtles is kind of like Navy SEALs, similar, that's who I was hanging out with at the time.
Well, by the time you were, looking at this stuff, there was all kinds of information out there about SEALs. Hell, the movie came out in 89, right?
90, I think.
90, 89, 90, whatever it was.
Yeah, game changer. Patron saint.
Yeah, Charlie
Navy
Sheen
SEALs,
looking
baby.
cool, man.
Charlie Sheen. Yeah, all right. Well, thanks for taking us down memory lane with the 80s. Maybe we'll do the 90s sometime. I just, I saw all these pictures and I said, you guys have got to see this stuff. You had to be there. It was just...
You're not seeing all the pictures, though.
Yeah, it was... you see some of them, a lot of them. But thanks for being here, guys. This is Dor and Coach with Tactical Hyve, and We'll see you guys next time. Thanks.